What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, taking a look at some GPP bats for tonight's 13-game slate. Have Coors on our hands. Zach Greinke's in there. So kind of a lot to break down. Jump right into it here. Position catcher. Chris Herman stands out to me tonight if he's in the lineup. I know they like to rotate those guys around quite a bit, but Herman's a guy over, the course of maybe a season and a half. He has not been too bad against right-handed pitching. 336 WOBA, 209 ISO. Looking at the matchup, obviously in Coors against Marquez is a plus. He's allowed 357 WOBA to lefties, low strikeout rate. Herman, not expensive by any means, 3,600, probably going to hit around 7th. On FanDuel, 3,200. I like Herman a lot. He should be a popular option. He's not going to kill you, but still get you that Coors exposure at a cheaper price. So if Herman's in the lineup, he's certainly in play there. Moving down the list, I like the Nationals tonight. I think Matt Wieters is an intriguing GPP option. Has actually been hitting the ball pretty well here in Washington over his last 30 games. He's averaging 10 FanDuel points, which is the highest among catchers. Looking at an experienced righty there, I certainly could see going on Pivetta, could certainly see going Wieters in that direction, especially if he climbs in the lineup a little bit with Harper out. So let's definitely keep an eye on that one. I think Wieters is in play at a reasonable price for him. Outside of that, though, if you're looking at punt options, which you might need on tonight's slate, I'm not particularly thrilled with a lot of the cheap guys in their matchups. Jason Castro's got the lefty-lefty matchup. I know we've been kind of on him over the last few games. Milwaukee Brewers and Pirates game's a little bit iffy as far as weather goes, but Manny Pena, Jet Bandy are two intriguing options that you can take a look at. Derek Norris against a lefty for cheap, I don't mind. So there are a couple options. It's just kind of a matter about where they're going to be lined up in the position or in the lineup order. But I do like Jet Bandy here against Jet Cool. If he's in the lineup, he's certainly an intriguing option at the price tag. But otherwise, I think you're in a good spot, kind of sitting in that mid-range. Yes, Money Grandal's not a bad option either against Chastain, who does struggle against left-handed bats. He's on the cheaper side too. Moving over to first base, Paul Goldschmidt's probably going to draw some high ownership, but obviously the high upside play. Definitely don't mind him. But I think if you're looking to kind of make a pivot away from those guys, I don't mind Mark Reynolds here as a GPP option. I think attacking Greinke here isn't a bad way to go tonight, especially at basically a much cheaper price tag. So staying in Coors, you could definitely look at Reynolds as a high price option if he's in the lineup. I know things are jumbled around with Desmond being back in as well. So keep an eye on that. Hanley Ramirez absolutely locked in right now. And with Philly Hughes on the mound, I like the odds of him to continue that tonight. Over a 200 ISO against righties this season. You look at Hughes, fly ball pitcher, 1.96 home runs per 9 to righties going back to last year. Hanley's certainly an intriguing option. Jose Abreu, talked about the White Sox as a stack. Abreu, hitting the ball well against, lefties. He hasn't been too bad over the last year. 362 WOBA, 229 WRC plus, 229 ISO, 144 WRC plus. Abreu in play at a cheaper price tag on FanDuel, 3,500. A little bit expensive over on DraftKings at 48. He's your third most expensive. Hasn't been as consistent as the other options, but he does make for a good GPP pivot. As far as cheap guys, Chris Davis, I don't mind. Miguel Gonzalez does not miss many bats, which is always the thing with Davis. He strikes out a ton. But I like the upside in that ballpark. Camden Yards plays very well for left-handed power. Davis, 254 ISO against righties going back to last year. So he's a cheap guy I think you can consider tonight and still get some reasonable upside out of at that price tag. Second base, this is a spot where you can look at Daniel Murphy as kind of an intriguing way to go because I don't think a lot of people will pay up at second base. Murphy might sneak up a spot in the lineup there if Harper's out. Good spot for some RBI production regardless of where he is. You look at Murphy, over 400 ISO, over 400 WOBA against righties going back to last year, 253 ISO, 151 WRC plus against righties alone this season. So Murphy's been a stud, averaging 10 DK points over the last 30 games. Against Pivetta, I don't mind taking some shots there. Brian Dozier against the lefty, I definitely don't mind. I mean, over 300 ISO against lefties going back to last year. Rodriguez does struggle with the long ball, 1.59 home runs per nine. Dozier's an intriguing option, and while I like Rodriguez tonight for the strikeout upside, I do think some of these bats have the home run potential against them as well. So I think Dozier's a big boomer bust guy there on a 13-game slate, kind of hoping that he gets lost in the mix. Tyler Saladino, I definitely don't mind. 376 WOBA against lefties. Wade Miley has been oddly effective, whether he's walking guys or striking out guys this year, which has just been a lot. But I do think him leading off is intriguing in that ballpark. I think Chicago bats are going to be very contrarian tonight. We'll be looking to use them. Neil Walker, good spot there, hitting fourth in the lineup behind Jay Bruce, who's been red hot. Tom Kohler's been absolutely awful this season, allowing over 500 WOBA to lefties. Walker in a good spot for runs and production. Overall, I mean, Walker's numbers have been fairly average over the last year, but 327 WOBA against righties, 164 ISO. So I will certainly look at him if I do need a cheaper guy. Because outside of that, I mean, we might see a couple guys pop up in the top half of the lineup, but at the moment, I think Walker is about as cheap as I'll go. Third base, Jake Lamb is going to be a popular option, but like the upside for him against Marquez. Arenado obviously in play as well against Greinke. I don't mind that. It's really hard to choose between Machado, Lamb, and Arenado tonight, but I would give the Lamb the slight edge being in cores, and then Machado or Arenado if I am choosing between the tops. Todd Frazier would be an interesting spinoff if you want to go that way. Has historically hit lefties very well, but very boomer bust, and way that Miley is missing bats. I'm a little less intrigued with Frazier out of the White Sox bats than anyone, but he is worth a look as well. Moving down the list, I mean, you do have, Anthony Rendon if he sneaks up fifth in the lineup if Bryce Harper's out. 344 WOBA against righties going back to last year, 182 ISO, obviously come off a strong game. Nationals bats are certainly in play there today. I'll definitely begin some exposure to Nationals, who in Citizens Bank Park is certainly a friendly ballpark to hit in. And going that route, I definitely don't mind. As far as cheap guys go, I mean, it's kind of tough to pick anyone that I tremendously like. I think this is a position you're really looking to pay up for because at the moment there isn't really a lot of names that jump off to me kind of below the 4K price tag. I mean, Matt Davidson, if he finds himself in the lineup, I'm okay with. Josh Harrison, who's third base eligible over on DK, I'm okay with it. That game plays. But for the most part, I think you're kind of looking to pay up for a Machado, Lamb, or Arenado, or Rendon, who's not even that expensive. So that's kind of where I sit for third base. Shortstop, this is a spot where, I mean, in a good matchup here, Chris Owings, I don't mind if he's in the top half of the lineup. I know David Peralta's questionable, has been playing well. Francisco Lindor at 4,300, certainly in play on DraftKings. I don't mind that price tag. FanDuel, I still feel like he's a bit overpriced. Given that he's 4,100. But if you kind of keep going down, I mean, Corey Seager in Petco. I know Petco is obviously a little bit tougher on power, but neutral to lefties. 3,500, not a bad price tag for him in a matchup against Chacin, hitting the ball well. Only 4,400 on DK. Tim Anderson, nice price tag on FanDuel, decent on DraftKings as well. Has a 351 WOBA against lefties going back to last year. I'll certainly be playing him once again as part of the Chicago stack that I am tossing out there for tonight's game. So keep going that route and stick with the Mets as Drupal Cabrera against Tom Kohler, who struggled with lefties. Cabrera, big power from the left side, 205 ISO against righties going back to last year. Really intriguing option once again with that whole Mets lineup. I'll be definitely looking to get some exposure. Tim Beckham, I mean, coming off a monster game against Dan Straley, hit 2 homers. Beckham against a lefty here, Liriano, who's out of control. You just never know what you're going to get out of him. But Beckham, I mean, reasonably priced once again. I mean, if you want to punt the position, DraftKings 2,900. I'll be looking to go that way. And even over on FanDuel, I think he's not a bad price at all. So Tim Beckham draws some interest from me. And if he's hitting lead off again, he should be drawing a lot of interest from others. But the points per dollar return is huge there. Outfield, we do have a couple questionables. I mean, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, if you for tonight's games. Obviously, a lot of the Coors outfielders are going to be in play. Ian Desmond, a contrarian way to go tonight. I definitely don't mind him. David Peralta's questionable, so keep an eye there. But kind of looking elsewhere, as Coors is going to draw some ownership. I don't mind the Baltimore bats there. Adam Jones, Mark Trumbo, who's just been struggling to start the year, but in play here if you want to jump ahead of the curve. Miguel Gonzalez does not miss many bats, is a fly ball pitcher as well. Jay Bruce, who has been red hot to continue that lefty trend, 274 ISO against righties going back to last year. I'll certainly be giving him a look here tonight. Christian Yelich, I like here against Montero, who struggled a little bit with lefties in his career. Yelich, obviously very strong, 388 WOBA going back to last year, 213 ISO. So he's very much in play for me tonight. Benintendi on DraftKings, I like it, 3,800. Look at Phil Hughes' numbers. I mean, absolutely struggles. Really against both sides of the plate. I mean, 377 WOBA allowed to lefties last year, does not miss bats, fly ball pitcher. Benintendi, a good option. FanDuel, I still once again feel like he's a little bit overpriced. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him to drive up that price tag quite a bit, but I think Mookie Betts being over 300 or 300 more, I'd rather just kind of go that route on FanDuel, certainly in play. Like I said, Jay Bruce, and with the same reasoning, Michael Conforto, who's been swinging the bat well. He's going to be a guy that I take a look at tonight. Leading off there for the Mets against Kohler. I do like the Mets stack 1 through 4, very much in play. And then we kind of go down into the cheaper options. I mean, to get with somebody, Seth Smith having a big night last night. I don't mind him. 340 WOBA against righties going back to last year. 170 ISO going up against Gonzalez there at home. Andrew Tolles leading off as a cheap guy you can consider tonight. I don't mind the upside out of him. Texas bats, I like Chu. I like Gomez. I like Mazzara. Curious to see what that lineup looks like when it comes out. Giovanni Gallardo, 362 WOBA to lefties going back to last year, 1.22 home runs per 9. All our intriguing options. The only downside is against Safeco, but if you're looking for lower ownership, I mean, you're definitely going to get it out of him. And obviously, if you want, you can take a look at a guy like Steven Souza, who's probably going to jump up in the top half of the lineup against Liriano, cheap source of power. Liriano is just one of those guys who is going to be boom or bust. So let's wrap things up here. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our great tools and content.